Hi, my name is Heather Fisher, and I have the blessing of working at Family Life Radio and working with our ministry's major donors. We have two children at home. They are 16 and now in college, 19. And our 16-year-old has just since early childhood always been adventurous, very athletic, very involved in pretty much every activity that would come her way. And but sometimes when she would get engaged in these exercises and things, she would complain about pain. And we thought, well, it's growing pains. It's just kind of a normal part of life, and really just moved on and went on to the next thing. And in 2019, we went on a family vacation. And when we came back, we got home and she came down from her bedroom just after we had walked in the door, and she said, "Mom, my lips are tingling."
When I think about my health journey, I really picture it starting towards the end of middle school. In like 7th grade, I started having like my lips swell up, and I would get hives when I was just like cold. And if I'd like go swimming, I would get hives, things like that. It was just like really odd things that we couldn't piece together. Initially, we tested all of like our worst case scenarios, and everything came back negative, but the symptoms were still there. We started treating the symptoms to help bring them down, but we were still looking for a diagnosis.
So we did a whole battery of tests. Finally, we got the results back, and she was positive for mast cell activation syndrome. And so that really dealt with all of these things that were swelling and hives and things, but it didn't explain the body pain. And so we started to ask her more questions. Well, Olivia, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you bend your fingers back? Can you bend over and touch your toes? And she had extreme flexibility. And the doctor explained to us that many children or people who have mast cell activation syndrome also have an illness called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
And then we progressed further, and those symptoms became the more mild ones. And then I had this third symptom with like really like fast heartbeat, and then it was irregular heartbeat and like painful like migraines, headaches, all these extra added on symptoms.
Since we both grew up playing sports, I didn't really notice anything when we were younger. I always just thought she was like more flexible or whatever because she's a girl, and I never really thought about it too much. But I mean, once we started to get older, I just thought maybe she was more prone to like getting hurt or something like that. I just wasn't completely sure what it was because I never really had those problems. So I just thought maybe it's her like not being as tough as me or what it was, but her situation was definitely a little different than mine.
Every 6 months, I usually have like a checkup type thing that you would normally have with like your primary care doctor. And he's like, well, what happens when you like lay down and then go to stand up? And I said, well, I get really dizzy, like I can't see anything. And he ran all the tests for that, and I ended up having POTS.
And from that day on, we started to have answers to a lot of these questions that didn't make sense about her childhood. These things that we sometimes thought she was just being clumsy or, just unexplained growing pains that really weren't that at all. And he explained to her on that day that she had a couple of options. She could let this illness run her life, or she could run it. And it was going to take a lot of work, and it was going to take a lot of positive thinking, and it was going to take God to be able to allow her to have the strength to get through all of this.
I guess it was just, at that point in time, I really weren't too fully understanding, the depth of everything. Is it something you take a couple pills for a while and it goes away, or is it permanent? And through a series of doctor's appointments, we kind of started pinpointing it and made it a little more, I guess, real.
So when you have POTS and EDS and mast cell, the biggest thing is like you make sure you're eating the right things that you need, which for most people isn't a lot of salt, which is what I need. Then that became a new part to the puzzle, and it just like slowly pieced itself together, but my symptoms still progress.
And I guess the big thing is just trying to help her to manage, the different symptoms, and try to help her figure out, when she just runs out of energy for the day, how to deal with it. depending on where we are and what time of day it is. For sports, I keep a backpack full of stuff, drinks, snacks, salt.
It became a lot harder emotionally than physically. It was like when things would flare up, it would cause me a lot more anxiety and stress to like learn how to handle each thing, and I almost became hyper-focused on it for a little while, like when things would happen, and that just makes it flare even more than it needs to.
She's now a junior in high school. She's balancing a very full school schedule, very tough classes. She is a 3-sport athlete, and some nights she's just tired, and that means early to bed. It might mean maybe giving her a break from those chores or expectations that we have. It might mean just extra supports with maybe bringing food to her or things like that. So we've learned to listen to her better. And I think through that, she's also learned to speak on her own behalf better. And unfortunately, there's no cure, and there's not even really great treatment. We just treat symptoms. We can't really treat the illness, and the symptoms change. But we have learned through this journey that what he said, that she was going to need to rely on God and her support system, was very true.
I grew up in a Christian household, and there's always just like, you're just surrounded by faith and it fills you and you don't know any other way. And then as you get older, you start being presented with outside like ideas and outside thoughts. I definitely reached a point where it was like, which way do I go? But then through this journey of what I have and what I've learned more about, I've learned that there's definitely it's easier with God. Like, he's there alongside you, and he doesn't just give these battles to people who can't handle it. Like, everything happens for a reason, and he has a plan, and there's a purpose to his plan.
I guess that's just constant with life. I mean, you're always aware of God's presence. So I think for myself, it's just one more of those things that you just put on your prayer list and be mindful of, and just accept what God's going to do.
And really, thinking about God's role in her learning to cope with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, he has given her strength when she didn't know that she had it in her. He's definitely given my husband and I strength when it's easy to think about giving up, because honestly, when you know there's no cure and the treatments aren't even really that effective a lot of the time, you have to play through the pain. You have to work when you're tired. You have to go to school when you don't feel like you have the energy to do it.
Now I definitely think it's opened my eyes more to like seeing things and like being more observant, not necessarily even about myself, but like I see other people struggling now, and it's not like you don't take things for granted as much. Like, you're more willing to accept that maybe they're not in the best place. Maybe they need help in ways that you don't even know. And it opens your eyes to things that you wouldn't know otherwise.
There's a lot of things that can happen in life, whether it's a change in pace in what you're doing, whether it's your job, moving into college, moving out of college, trying to start a new life. There's a lot of stuff that can just go into trying to hold on to hope.
And just trust in him. Like, it's really hard to like think about, why is this happening to me? Like, why me? Like, that's always the question you want to ask yourself when things are happening. But it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter why it's me, but it is. Like, that's just how it is, and I can't at this point do anything about it. Like, it's just treat the symptoms, like, there's no cure. And then at the end of the day, I think about like, there's other people. Like, there's more things to life than just like dealing with my problems. Like, yeah, short term, like deal with the symptoms in the moment, but like, it's more important to like go out and continue to live your life while you can, because there could be a point where I just like I'm wheelchair bound. Like, we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. So I just try to like do everything I can while I still can, because we don't know.
We do have things that we know that we can do, but some days even that it's not enough. And so really just helping her to wake up in the morning and trust him with that day. And I think more than anything for her parents to trust him and to encourage her in that. That's where we're at today. She is still full-time in school, and many patients that have what she has are not. And we don't take it for granted, because we don't know if that is how it will be for her forever or just for today, but it's okay. God is good, and He has shown us His faithfulness time and time again.